Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Heart to Heart with Southern Belle here on the Southern Belle channel. If you would, y'all let me know if you can successfully see me and hear me. I am so blessed that y'all had plenty of things you could have done and plenty of places you could have been. You chose to come here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me welcome everybody, especially my ballerinas and ballerinos. Let me start with my loyal and helpful mods. I want to send out my love and prayers and cyber hugs to first my two mods that are on family leave. First to Triple S Mercantile, whose mother has passed away. And she is grieving that loss, and we are praying for her and keeping her in our prayers. Second, to Amy Hoosier Diver, whose mother-in-law and father-in-law are visiting from a foreign country. And we hope that visit is going well. We are missing her, but we wish you well. Next, let me also welcome my moderators, Karen McCarty, who is in charge of my chat tonight. Also, Danielle Barnes, who came up with the name Heart to Heart with Belle for this show and does the most beautiful thumbnails. I am so blessed for her help. And wait till you see the one for Battle with Belle on Thursday. And she's got some great ones for the next auction as well. I see we have Lisa M in the chat. Thank you, Lisa. She's trying to put her sweet toddler daughter, Evelyn, down for the night. I want to say hello to Jennifer Chesney as well. So if you are new here, thank you ever so much for tuning in. I would ask that y'all would stop and click the thumbs up, because clicking the thumbs up helps me with the YouTube algorithm, and it lets people know that you approve of my channel, you like my channel, that my content is worth watching, and that they should suggest it to other people. Also, you can always leave some fleur-de-lis in the comments. That's a great way of supporting me and letting me be encouraged through the show, since this is a show about encouragement and support. If there's anybody, let me tell you what we do here on Heart to Heart with Belle. There's an expression down south that talks about having a heart to heart, and it's when you pour out your heart. Most of the time, it's about a heartbreak, whether it's the heartbreak of a relationship, the heartbreak of losing a loved one, losing a job, of maybe some kind of medical diagnosis. But it can be small things too, like you got a flat tire, you chipped a tooth, you tripped and you have a big bruise on your ankle. It could even be the heartbreak of things that didn't happen. Not going to college, not getting married, not having that baby, not getting a promotion. So sometimes it can just be an absence as well. And usually what we do here is we drop the link and we see who is interested, and whoever's interested pops up and they can just spontaneously have a heart to heart. Sometimes y'all are kind enough to let me know either in email messages or Discord messages that you'd like to have a heart to heart, so I can schedule guests ahead of time. And that's going to be the situation today. But let me give a few programming channel information before we bring our guest up, and we'll learn who he is, what he does, even how we're acquainted. On Thursday is going to be Battle with Belle. And it's a fun game show where we play the game Last Word. And Once again, I take contestant sign-ups by email or Discord. The mods will be dropping my Discord link. If for some reason you're not already on my Discord link, you're absolutely missing out. And I do, after I get through the contestants we have already signed up, then I take volunteers from the chat audience as well. And then I hope y'all will join me next Saturday and Sunday once again for auctions both nights. Because if you don't already have family plans or a hot date, then it's a fun place to be. You can get some bargains by Belle, as well as has some fun social time in the chat. Okay, we have a prayer request, so we can always delay and take time for prayer request. Lisa M says, hubby and I are having issues, and we ask for prayers, and that is absolutely something we do here on Heart to Heart. I know my guest won't mind waiting just a minute or two while I say a quick prayer for Lisa and her husband. Heavenly Father, I love you, and I thank you so much that you have created this world, you live and rule and reign in this world, and that you live in our hearts, and you live where two or more are gathered. And I see that we have a group of people who are caring and loving, many of which who believe in prayer. And so I ask in the precious name of your son, Jesus, that you would help Lisa and her husband as they're going through a hard time, both as a married couple, as parents, as young people, trying to figure life out, trying to navigate both the joys and the challenges, trying to work together. I know sometimes it must be hard not to always get your way, but to have to put somebody else first. And I know when you have a child, that must be the most important thing. So I would ask you to bless Lisa and her husband with a greater understanding of what's best for their daughter, Evelyn, an understanding of how to get along with each other, of how to um, make a way, how to create compromises so that they can do what is ultimately right for their marriage and for their sweet little girl. Inspire them with ideas, remind them of the deep love that they have for each other and you. It is in your name I pray. Amen. And if you were praying along with me, you can type amen in the chat. Now, let me bring up my guest. Hello, hello. I see your name is listed as Ian Waller. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was taken a bit by surprise. I thought this would be a Discord streaming thing. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
I can hear you, and it is on YouTube, and I use the StreamYard so that you're able to join me.
Okay. Yeah. I was. Yeah. When I got the link, I was told to sign in through my Google account, so that's why it's showing my full name. But I mean, I'm okay with having my full name on display if you are.
Okay, so we'll just call you Ian then, and
Sure.
help the chat to get to know you, Ian.
Alrighty.
Tell us who you are and about your life, and you can even tell people how we are acquainted.
So I'm sure as you
You
can
might
see,
also have to tell us who that is on your icon, since I'm guessing most of us don't quite recognize it. That's obviously not you.
no.
Oh.
Um, it's I've had this profile picture for like a whole bunch of years now. It's the cover to a heavy metal album. That's really all it is. So it's probably really small in the little circle portrait thing. So I don't think very many people can actually make out what it is.
Well,
But
we're on a dual screen, so it's pretty large right now.
oh, okay then. Um,
It's about the
yeah,
size of a half dollar.
Okay. All right. Well,
Can you see the chat to see the audience comments? If you'll click on the word comments, you'll be able to see people saying, "Hi, Ann."
hello. Hello, everyone. Um,
So you'll see Danielle Barnes, my moderator, saying hi to you. You'll see Lisa M., the married mother that we just prayed for, is saying hi to you.
yeah, I hope you and
Mhm.
your husband can reconcile whatever's going on, and I'll be praying
So
for
tell
that.
us So tell us about you and who you are so we get an idea of your life. You can tell people how we're acquainted, and then later we'll find out what you want to have a heart to heart about.
Yeah. So my name is Ian Waller, and I exist on quite a few different platforms. I have a YouTube channel that is called FW Waller, where on that channel I make videos about my love of films, of filmmaking, and basically storytelling in all of its forms, be it films, comic books, TV shows, video games, all that kind of stuff. It's a very lifelong passion of mine. And um, even though I've had limited success in that field, I did go to college for filmmaking, and I'm still hoping to this very day to strike out and hopefully make films or maybe build some kind of living doing something that is related to creating things, creating stories that people can absorb and learn from and enjoy. I'm currently writing my own fantasy novel right now, and it's turned out to be much longer than I was expecting it to be, but I've poured a lot of passion and a lot of thought into it. And apart from that, in my day-to-day job, I drive a school bus to pay the bills. I have a roommate who I live with, and I live a fairly simple life.
Now, Danielle Barnes was saying while you were telling about writing your fantasy novel that sounds really cool. Lisa M. is also saying that she thinks that sounds really cool. Do you mind sharing your age demographic and whether you're married or single, whether you have kids, you have pets? Give us an idea of where you are in life.
I just turned 30 this year. I am single. I have a roommate who I live with, and I have a cat. I don't have any kids.
Okay,
Um, I definitely, I'm optimistic that I can sort of raise a family of my own one day, though.
of course. And tell my viewers how we know each other.
So I know Belle because she and I met through a Discord server that is hosted by a streamer called Not So Erudite, and she and I became friends through there. And she made Belle made her own Discord server, and she asked me to join and try to help her out with her videos and content. And in return, I decided to make a comeback with my own YouTube channel, which I've actually had my YouTube channel for many years, but it was on a really long hiatus. But last year, I decided to bring it back and start making videos at a semi-regular basis again. And Belle has helped me out. She's been a moderator for some of my streams, and she's been a good friend to me, given me motivation and support to soldier through my projects and get things done. So that's how we know each other. And on her Discord server, I go by the name Sherp, spelled SHERP.
So, everybody, if you end up hitting it off with Ian here and you want to continue the conversation or give him messages of encouragement, inspiration, support, or maybe you just want to read a little excerpt from his book or you want to get links to his YouTube videos, you can do all that on my Discord. Danielle is dropping the Discord link, and you can find him under the name Sherp. I want to welcome Boo to the chat. Welcome, welcome, Boo.
Welcome.
And I think what Ian is also telling you, and I don't know if people knew this in advance, but before I had the show Heart to Heart, I had heart to hearts in real life. One of the great things about Discord, whether it's my Discord or any other Discord, and I am a member of lots of other Discords besides my own, is there's group voice chatting. Now, I don't use the one in my own all that often. I should use it more often. And Ian here is one of the people who I actually talk to there and encourages me to use it more than I actually do. But I have my mod
Hmm.
meetings there and a few other things. But before I ever had the show, when I was on either the group voice chat of my Discord or other Discords, before I even knew it, I was secretly having heart to hearts. I didn't know I was practicing. I didn't know months later that I would end up having a show called Heart to Heart. So, in full disclosure, we've actually had many heart to hearts over the months that we've known each other. It just wasn't in front of other people. Um, so, what do you
Yes,
want this
indeed.
heart to heart to be about? Maybe our audience can help you because we have people from all over the country of all different ages. We have married people, single people, divorced, widowed, and I'm sure they would all like to help and give you advice and support and encouragement for whatever you're going through or whatever your life aspirations are. So, let's get into it. What would you like to have the heart to heart about tonight?
Well, I did have something in mind as sort of a way to start it off.
Great.
So earlier today, I was actually helping another guy in another Discord server. Basically, he was a guy with a really rough personal life. He has a lot of mental issues, but he told me that he wants to move out of his grandparents' house where he's lived his whole life and move into an apartment with sort of accommodations for mentally ill people. And he wanted me to sort of proofread a draft for a letter he's going to be writing to the landlords of this place.
Uh-huh.
And I offered to look at this letter and the list of qualifications that he listed to sort of just edit it, make sure that it's typed correctly, make sure that it's not overlong, that it's concise. You know, he has like a long list of points that qualify him for this place that I was kind of looking at and deciding, well, this would probably be, these 2 points would probably be together as, they'd probably be better as 1 point, you know, just trying to refine it and make sure it's as good and importantly, like short and to the point as it can be. Because when you are trying to request something of people in those positions, you want to value their time. And you do that, you'll make a very good impression on them and they'll be more likely to like you and maybe even possibly grant whatever requests you want from them. So I was just hoping to help him do that, and it made me feel
Absolutely.
very good about myself. I was really happy to
You
do
know, one of
so.
the great things about having a college education, even if you're working outside your field, is it still gives you the ability to speak well, to have excellent writing techniques, to adapt your thinking, where you can compare, where you can contrast, when you can evaluate and strategize.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of no matter what field you go into, you will learn a lot of things that cross over into a lot of other practical, hands-on aspects of life. Absolutely, and it also it made me like sort of it made me happier. Made me a little more optimistic about my own life to help this guy out. Hopefully, facilitate the process of him improving his as well.
Oh, no, are you not feeling optimistic about your own life, Ian?
Um,
You can tell us. We are here for you. We don't judge, and we'd love to help you, comfort you, to carry your burden, to encourage or inspire you in any way we can. This is a place where everything doesn't have to be okay, where everything doesn't have to be rainbows and roses, where sometimes we step in a mud puddle. Sometimes we have spinach in our teeth or toilet paper stuck to our shoe. But it takes that kind person to say, you got a little something in your teeth, or here, let me get this off your shoe. And we're those kind of kind people that can help you. Can we rebuild your house after a tornado? No. Can we give you the job that might have gone to someone else? No. But the little things about venting or listening or showing you what might be in front of your face but you're missing, that's absolutely something we can help with here at Heart to Heart with Belle.
yeah, so I think I should maybe turn the clock back and maybe try to recount um, some of my experiences from maybe a couple years back that made me somewhat uncertain about the course of my future, I guess we could call it.
Good idea.
So yeah, a couple of years ago, in 2019 is when I graduated from college. I graduated with my filmmaking degree, and I was really hoping that I would be able to maybe have some steady work working on film crews, ascending up the ladder, possibly making it to a cinematographer or a film editor or maybe even a director. Now, should I go into detail and to what those specific positions are, or
I think
should I keep
people are
going?
wondering, were you intending to move to Hollywood, to move to New York City, to move to Vancouver, where there are a plentiful number of those positions available? Because we know that in certain states there are lots of filming going on, whereas if you live in some place like Montana or Idaho, West Virginia, that perhaps there's not as much availability. Just like if you were a professional surfer, it probably wouldn't help you to live in Chicago, even though Chicago is a great town. So um, were you just hoping that a job would come your way while you were still in the dorm? Lisa M is saying, or Michigan. Um, or were you planning to move someplace that would be plentiful in what you were looking for? So basically, my first question to you is, were you looking for a needle in a haystack, or were you looking for a needle in a stack of needles?
So I was never planning to move to Hollywood because I think Hollywood is a very morally corrupt place. The film industry
Enough
there
said.
is very
Mhm.
morally corrupt. And
Right.
even the
We
people,
all agree with that.
yeah, and even
Mhm.
the people there who find success, most of them report that really they feel like they're just being used. They don't feel valued. They don't feel respected by any of their peers or their bosses. They're just seen as tools or pawns by the big sort of hedonistic studio business suits up there. So that's not an existence I wanted to use. I didn't want to go through any of the things
Right.
that lots of young, up and coming, ambitious filmmakers have had to experience. There's lots of examples of filmmakers that I even look up to that have been put through, who've been put through those types of experiences with the corrupt and very, very questionable business practices that Hollywood does. As for like moving to New York or Vancouver, I thought about moving to those places, but it proved to be a bit too financially untenable because moving to those places would be a gigantic expense, but the cost of living in those places, of staying, of the cost of like staying in those places, of paying rent, of affording groceries and even gas prices, that would just be even more money that I'm not sure my family would have been able to provide for me.
So it
So,
sounds like what you've chosen is that you were concerned about either the morals of moving to California or the costs of the economy in these other towns. So you made a strategic decision to stay in the state where you are, and
mhm.
you were just somehow hoping or expecting or wanting a job to somehow come along in your field. Is that correct? Because it seems like that was a less likely option. You know, sometimes have you heard that old saying where are you dressing for the job you have now or the job you want? And it sounds like that might be the system with geography too, where you either move to get the job that are plentiful in your area, or you stay in the area where you like, and then you have to pick from the jobs that happen to be plentiful in that area you want to stay. And it sounds like that you've made your life by doing that. That you've gotten your degree and that you've chosen in order to stay in that beautiful, lovely, blessed area where you are, which is very scenic, by the way, y'all, that you're working outside your field for your geography rather than changing your geography for your field. Is that correct?
It is, but
Okay.
my decision to remain here is it is informed at least by some actual legitimate examples of other people who have actually found success working film related jobs in the area that I
Okay.
live in, because I live very close to New Orleans, and New Orleans is growing by the day to be a very very prosperous film industry location. There's a lot of projects, there's a lot of TV shows, and a lot of movies that are being filmed not just in New Orleans but all across Louisiana. As a matter of fact, I went to see a film recently called 65. It was like this science fiction sort of horror thriller film that has it has Adam Driver in the lead role, and he's this guy who ends up marooned on the earth 65 million years ago, and he has to survive against dinosaurs and all kinds of other nasty prehistoric creatures and monsters. And all the location filming in that film was actually done in Louisiana, and it's far from the only film that is that's been shot there in recent years. So,
Well, New Orleans is
if
trying to build itself as the Hollywood of the South. They're
very
trying
much
to
so.
bring in more films. For those of y'all who know I'm from the New Orleans area, I want you to know that Ian does not actually live in Louisiana. He is not my neighbor. We do not know each other in real life. We only know each other in the cyber sense. So, can you corroborate that? Because
I
I don't want
can.
people to get the wrong idea that you're not even in the same state.
Right. I live very close to Louisiana. I live in Mississippi on the Gulf Coast, specifically in the city of Biloxi.
Okay. Well, thank you so much so that nobody is wondering or typing behind our backs. So,
Don't want any
but
gossip going on.
it just makes sense, though, to have a Southern guy on a Southern Belle channel. Although one of these days I want to twist his arm and get him to come play the game show, or I just want him to use his announcer voice and announce something that I can play at the beginning of my game show. Because y'all don't know it, but even though we're talking about very serious topics, Ian is super funny. and is very comedic as well. And when he wants to, he has this great announcer voice. But let's get back to the topic at hand. So it sounds like perhaps you're having kind of a reconsideration of your situation of saving the geography but working outside your field versus changing your geography to a place that would easily let you work inside your field. So you sound like you're maybe a little bit frustrated. Would that be accurate?
Well, it's a little bit complicated because when I first graduated from college, I had very limited success, which, to be fair, I was expecting because I was fresh out of college. I had not very much experience, so it makes sense that I probably wouldn't see a whole lot of work for a little while. So I I did jobs to keep the lights on. I worked at Walmart for a bit. I did food delivery through like a phone app as a side job to generate additional income. Um, but things got a lot worse because 2020 happened, and I'm sure everybody can relate to that. They know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right, because we're not going to say that word on YouTube. So, but we all know about the pandemic. Keep going. Also, let me share what Karen McCarty is saying. She's my lead moderator, and she is giving you the advice to keep plugging away because she's saying that after her son graduated, the jobs that he wanted in his field took a while to build a position that paid well.
Hmm.
Great advice because she's the mom of an adult college age son.
Okay. I
Well,
appreciate
a
that,
college
Karen.
graduate son, I should say.
I appreciate your
So,
support.
and apparently you are plugging away because from what you said at the beginning, you have written most of and still putting the finishing touches on your novel, and you have revived your YouTube channel, which I wish I could grow my YouTube channel as big as yours. So that just shows how popular you were in the day, that even when you took a long hiatus and lots of people unsubscribed, you still have many thousands of people that want to hear your take on movies and cinematography and the sound behind movies, the look, the editing, the directing, the acting.
Well, to be fair, your channel has grown quite a lot in a very short amount of time, so
Well,
that's
that's
nothing to
sweet.
sneeze at as well.
Well, this isn't a competition, though. Um, So, although if you get me started, we'll end up turning this into my heart to heart with you
Hmm.
because you're so easy to talk to. So, how can we help you today? Are you looking to make some changes? Are you looking to get support for what you're already doing? Because you know that old saying that if you keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, do you know what that is?
Insanity.
Exactly. So it sounds like perhaps you're looking to move in a positive direction, maybe make some changes. Have you thought about it? I know that we mostly talk about this in the category of New Year's resolutions, but I'm sure you know that you can make a resolution anytime. People who deal with addiction will stop smoking or drinking in the middle of the year, in the summer, even when they find out about a medical diagnosis. And while you're not talking about addiction at all, you're talking about positive changes for career or for creative development. It sounds like you're actively working on those pursuits while still earning a steady paycheck so that you can pay your bills like a responsible adult.
Yeah, there's one problem of mine that I have been wrestling for probably the past few months, and it has to do with the writing of my novel. Um,
Now, before you tell us about that, I'd like to read this comment from Lisa. Lisa says, Sounds like you were heading in the right direction. Take a while to obtain. That's good advice. Now, go ahead and
I'm sorry, what did you say?
go ahead and tell us.
Oh,
Go ahead and tell
okay.
us what the one thing that you said is getting in your way.
So when I first started writing my story, it used to be I could sit down
Uh-huh.
and I could start typing. And as I was typing, I would have ideas, I would have inspiration, I would have um, diction and language and sentence structure and all of these, all of this, all this good material sort of being naturally fed into my brain as I was typing. It was almost like the keyboard had like a tube that was like feeding ideas and inspiration directly to my mind. If I don't, that may be a strange analogy, but it's accurate to sort of the feeling I was getting. Like it was a very exciting type of feeling that I got whenever I was writing, and
Lisa
it
is
made it.
asking, do you have writer's block?
I do. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, let me ask this important question because even though I'm not a writer, I did take scene writing when I was in college. And I learned from personal experience that there is basically two ways to write. There is writing with an assignment. And of course, for you, it would be an assignment you give yourself. Like, for instance, you say, I'm going to assign myself to write a love scene between this character and this character. I'm going to assign myself to write a fight scene between this scene. And then it's just a matter of figuring out, well, what can I say to start the fight scene? What can I say to start the courtship of the love scene? And then you figure out what you say, what each of the characters say to make it happen. You write in the scenery, the description, the blocking, and you're done. Or you can work about it the opposite way, where you say, you close your eyes and you try to force yourself to daydream, and you say, what comes to mind? What might this character say or do? And you just kind of let it naturally evolve. Now, the problem with letting it naturally evolve is it doesn't necessarily fit into your plot points. So, it might naturally evolve into uh, somebody painting a canvas or a house or taking a walk. But if that doesn't add to your overall plot point, then you might just be wasting your reader's time. Whereas if you make the agenda of what you want for the story, whether it fits into neat little chapters or not. But, like for instance, I'll use a tripe, um, a romantic comedy. It's going to start with a meet cute, where two characters meet and there's some funny little incident that where they get acquainted, and then they're going to start to like each other. Then something's going to happen which is going to ruin the courtship. Then they're going to date other people, they're going to worry and stress about it, then something will happen to bring them back together, and it'll all end with either a kiss or a marriage or a happily ever after. And so it's going to follow this guideline, and it's just a matter of writing each scene so that it fulfills that criteria. So, my question to you is, are you trying to let it naturally evolve and think, what would my character do next? Would he or she ride a horse? Would he or she spearfish? Would he or she uh, adopt a dog as a companion? Or do you have a certain outline and it's just a matter of writing fun, engaging scenes following that outline in order to get to your pre-assigned destination?
It's I have an outline laid out and I know the direction that the story is headed.
Good.
The the difficulty is just actually directing and hands-on writing the scenes surrounding that story that give it life, essentially. That's the thing that I'm struggling with right now, and that feeling of just sitting there typing, having ideas and solutions coming to me naturally as I was typing, that doesn't really happen as much anymore, and that's I guess that's kind of the main thing that makes me a bit, it kinda depresses me a little bit in
Now,
regards
Karen
to
has a
my
great
project.
suggestion. Here's Karen's suggestion, and you might have done this, you might not have. Let me read it, and then you can tell us whether you've tried this or not. She's saying stepping away from a project, maybe taking a few weeks off to do something different or something fun in life can help. The other is finding someone to be a sounding board to talk through the areas where you are blocked. Have you tried one or both of these solutions? Both are excellent solutions, aren't they, Ian?
They are, I've tried stepping away. It 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 sometimes helps, I won't deny that, but at the same time, I do have a very nagging feeling that I'm procrastinating and I do have to make some amount of progress. But the latter thing, I haven't actually tried that. The whole sort of bouncing ideas off of someone else.
You know where a great place to do that would be, right? On the Southern Bells Bubble Discord, where we have private messaging, we have group messaging, we have voice calls, we have group voice calls, and Danielle will be dropping the link right now. It's an absolutely free social media platform. Mine happens to be G rated and family friendly, although most are not. Let me warn you. Um, but it would be a place where, through either private messaging or group messaging, that you could possibly have a sounding board. Let me ask you another question. One of the things that I learned by studying theater, especially when I was taking improv classes, which, spoiler alert, of all my acting classes, improv was my favorite. They taught us to ask the what if question. So, have you thought of asking the what if question in order to help move along your dialogue? You know, what if this character died? What if this character got married? What if this character adopted a dog? How would it change the situation? How would it change the course of history? How would it change what they thought, what they felt, what they did? And each time you ask the what if, it's not always going to be the right answer. But when you ask that question, you might happen upon one that works. For women, we do this with clothing. What if I bought a classic black pant? Well, that's going to go with everything. What if I bought this ball gown? Well, you're most likely not going to have any place to wear that. What if I bought this church dress? Am I actually going to wear it to church? Well, I'd have a dress if I got asked out on a date. Um, this might give me hope if I buy this dress that I'll have some fancy to wear it. And we ladies not only buy dresses that we hope we get to someday wear, but don't necessarily have a place to wear, we will even go so far, and you'll probably find this funny, Ian, as to buy clothes that don't fit. And we call these goal clothes because we think, oh, if I just lost 5 pounds or 10 pounds, or if I just wore the right Spanx or girdle or shaper underneath this, I might be able to slide into this because way too many women see beauty in pounds or in dress size.
Mhm,
So, would it be possible that perhaps you ask some what if questions, either to get your mind going about scenarios or in order to get the writing of dialogue going. Because, you know, as a writer, sometimes when you have that first line, whether it's a question or it's a line that's just setting the mood for the scene, that
mhm.
sometimes it can inspire more. Because when you say, I looked around and it was a dreary day and I felt the clouds closing in above my head, that's going to give you a totally different vibe Whereas if your character says, I looked above and the sun was shining, the birds were chirping, and everything seemed right in the world.
I've never heard of this what if device exactly. I'm actually a little shocked that I've never heard of this because this actually sounds like a pretty useful exercise to use when it comes to writing.
Well, let me tell you how it works. Let me tell you how it works. And I've always kind of wanted to have an improv show. I always thought if I really can't make it in watch hours, I may have to keep creating more shows. But here's how it works in improv, and y'all may have seen this in the audience if you like to watch like a What's My Line or Whose Line Is It Anyway kind of show. Um,
Oh,
where
yeah, I
people
grew up
will
watching
say,
that.
what if I lived in fill in the blank country? What if my job were, and the audience will say, fill in the blank job? Or what if my motivation in the scene was fill in the blank? Because once you realize that your motivation is to get a yes from this girl to go out on a date with you, to get a yes from this guy that you can invent a new pasta and name it after him, whatever it is, if you say, what if we, and you fill in the blank, that will give you all kinds of options or questions. And it applies to scene writing, it applies to even dating as well. One time, a guy was trying to ask me out on a date, and he's like, well, will you go out with me? And I wasn't going to say yes or no because I thought if he wants to take me to some grungy, unsafe place like a billiards hall or a pool hall, I certainly don't want to get stuck there. But if he wants to take me to the standard date of dinner and a movie, then of course it's a yes. Or maybe lunch and escape room game, double yes. Or, I needed to find out what he had in mind because as a single woman, it is safety has to be paramount. And so I realized that we started playing the what if game. Well, what if I took you to a festival? What if we went down to the French Quarter and went to Emerald Lagasse's restaurants? What if we just stood around the Jackson Square and listened to the street musicians? What if, and he was trying to decide if I needed a fine dining restaurant experience or if I was a cheap date and we could just drive there and listen to street musicians and walk and talk. And he ended up finding out the answer to a lot of those was way more nuanced because it had more to do with safety and parking and transportation than it did with how much he spent. But he wasn't thinking about that because guys don't think about safety and transportation and not wanting to get stuck 45 minutes from home like women do. So hopefully you can see that by asking some of these what if questions, and it can even be a combination of some of Karen's ideas, where if you have other people as a sounding board, even me, I can say, what if this character walked up the mountain and then fell? What if this character broke their leg? What if this character couldn't find food? What if, by other people asking what if, most of them going to be bad ideas. But there's a slight chance that with somebody asking those questions, eventually you say, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I could incorporate that. I never thought about asking enter adding in a dog or adding in a drought or adding in a scenario of not enough food or a scenario where he keeps seeing birds circling overhead, and there's an ominous force and he's wondering, is it a sign from God? Is it a dead animal over the cliff? Is it a forefather talking to him? You can take some little bitty detail that you add in for no reason and use it for foreshadowing, use it just for the fantasy aspect since you're in the fantasy genre.
Yeah, I think the the asking of that question leading to undesirable sort of directions, I think that's actually useful because it would sort of cause you to look at those choices and decide, yeah, I shouldn't do this, shouldn't do this. Like it's a good way to sort of eliminate bad writing decisions, I feel. So I think I'm going to look more into that once we conclude the stream because that sounds like a really useful thing for me to adopt. So thank you very much for mentioning that to me.
Well, I'm so glad I had some good advice. Let's go to the chat and let's see if anybody in the chat has any other advice about writer's block. I actually thought today's stream was going to be about life choices or going to be about the direction of career, but it's amazing how when you get to talking to people that sometimes even if you think a conversation's going in one direction, you uncover what the real need is or what the real issue is. It's kind
Hmm.
of like dating in the same way. Sometimes you think, oh, you're going out with a boring guy from church. And then you realize, oh, wait, that guy turns out to be this great singer. And maybe he also plays an instrument. And maybe find out you both went to the same college and you find out all kinds of other things that you didn't see from the shirt and tie. But when you get to
Hmm.
talking to people, you find out other things that you wouldn't have otherwise known. Oh, hi,
Yeah.
Al Bundy. Thank you
Um,
so much for subscribing and giving my heart to heart a chance show a try. I so appreciate that.
yeah. We could still talk about
Now,
life decision things. So.
let me back. Karen's going back to my suggest my story about clothes and what if, and she's saying I don't have to worry about what if. I'm a blue jeans and pearls kind of girl. And, not everybody has to worry. Some people just know who they are. So Karen just knows that she's a blue jeans and pearls kind of girl. She doesn't have to worry about who she's going to go out with because she has been married to the same great guy who she is desperately in love with and his her soulmate. So it is great that sometimes you just don't have to worry. And I think we all have aspects in our life that we don't have to worry about, and then aspects in our life that can vacillate at times. And just because they are changing doesn't mean that they are bad. Sometimes having options is a great thing. Let's see. Lisa is saying that, well, if it makes you feel better, I have a junk journal block. I just don't know what to do next. Lisa,
Hmm.
perhaps this advice would work for you. Maybe you could ask, what if? What if I did a date night page? And maybe you posted in movie tickets that you and your husband went to the last time. Or maybe it was some memorabilia from your last vacation. Maybe it was about your little girl and it shows the first time she ate spaghetti or the first time she walked. Or maybe her handprint next to your handprint, and you chronologically did that every year. You could too ask yourself, what if I, did this or did that.
Yeah.
Al Bundy he was a first time viewer. He found me from a growth show that I like to go to try to help grow my channel in the afternoons. And he says, I have a talent for writing in college, but I haven't pursued it since. Interesting topic. Oh, Al, I so wish you had watched the beginning of the show. I think you and Ian might have been best friends. He was sharing that he graduated in 2019 with a filmmaking degree, and he was initially saying that his life is turning out a little bit different than he expected. He shared that he's in Mississippi, where there's not actually a lot of filmmaking, and he was hoping to be working in the area of filmmaking. But because he's a responsible adult and lives on his own, therefore he's taking another job to pay his bills, but yet He is still hoping to someday work in the film industry. And meanwhile, he has a successful YouTube channel that has way over 3,000 subscribers. I can only dream of 3,000 subscribers. And he is more than halfway through his first novel, which is a novel of fantasy.
Yep.
So,
Takes
see, you are
place.
not the only one. Al is another person that is a college graduate, but hasn't pursued it since. Al, do you mind if I ask how long it's been graduated from college, or maybe what field you went to instead? See, I knew that somehow, because nothing is random, because God is in charge of everything, that if you came on this show, God would somehow send to you either some ideas or some encouragement and inspiration, or perhaps somebody who was a kindred spirit who could understand what you were going through and encourage you that way. Because I really believe that everything happens for a reason, even just silly little shows like Heart to Heart with Belle on YouTube.
Very
Would it
much
help
agreed.
to use the audience as a sounding block? Do you wanna maybe tell us where you're stuck, and maybe we can pitch you some various ideas? Maybe we could ask you some what if questions, or do you think that that's too private? If that's too private, I don't want you to necessarily dox your character or your plot if you think that that would be problematic, but I was just trying to see if there's any way we could help or be that kind of muse, or just ask you some questions to get you thinking and get those writing juices flowing.
So the place where I'm at in my story right now, all of my
Okay.
main character,
Hello,
all of my
hello.
main character. I'm sorry.
I was saying hello. Another viewer has tuned
Oh,
in. It's Canadian girl Renee.
oh, hello.
So, you were telling us where we left off in the story, where you are currently experiencing your writer block on your first ever novel, which is of the fantasy variety.
Yeah. So a little bit of context. My novel takes place in Norse mythology, and it deals with an event called Ragnarok, which is basically the Norse apocalypse. It's this gigantic war between all of these um, all of these different beings. There's giants, there's big wolves, there's elves and dwarves. It's basically this giant final war for all of existence, and the part in my story that I am currently at is set in the middle of this war, and it basically deals with all my main characters who have died on Earth, but they've been reincarnated in a place called Valhalla, which in the Norse myths is the place where warriors who die in battle are transported to by these angel like beings called Valkyries. So my main characters are all fighting in this big war, and they're trying to stay alive and find a way to sort of protect the last vestiges of humanity and the innocent from the monstrous enemy army. That's basically where I'm at, without going into too much detail.
Now, is it possible to actually win against the enemy army, or is everybody going to end up dying in the world ending? Is it going to be a positive or a negative result that we're working towards?
It'll be a positive result. It will be possible. It's just a very formidable, very strong, and nearly overwhelming enemy army. And they're led by
Okay, so
basically
my
the
question
principal
is, in
antagonists.
what if
I'm sorry,
what
you go
if
first.
there is somebody what if there is somebody that makes the war fighting for? there has to be somebody that makes it worth fighting for, whether it's somebody's soulmate, somebody's love, somebody's daughter, somebody's dog. Um, you can say, well, it's all mankind, but you know that every story, every movie, every character needs a specific person, icon, mascot of some type that makes it worth fighting for. It's the Lois Lane of the Superman that makes it worth
Hmm.
fighting for. So, who do you have worth fighting for?
My, I mean,
And
my
if
main
you
character.
don't,
Hello, somebody else join.
that was a vacation from my Discord. I don't know how
Okay.
to turn that off. Hello to
Ah,
Virginia. Yes, I'm Southern Belle. Welcome, welcome.
welcome. But
Okay,
to answer your
so if we're trying to find, Mhm, go ahead.
yeah, to answer your question, yes, my main character has a family. He has a wife and four children who are all fully grown up, and he has a few friends. So he absolutely has plenty of emotional anchors to sort of make us root for him to survive and win. So I definitely have that base
So,
covered.
what if one of those families
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, we seem to be lagging. My apologies. What if one of those family members gets sick? Or what if one of those family members is wronged? And that can be the what if excuse to fight this war, to win in the name of fill in the blank character.
That well, that is a part of the story without going into too many specifics. But there is absolutely a very big emotional investment that my main
Tell
character
us more
has
of
towards the
specifically where you
antagonist.
left off,
Right. I'm just like I have an outline as to how everyone's going to end
where you
up,
left
and
off in the story.
yeah, it's just I mean, to be fair, like it's not that I haven't written the story in a long time. I am writing it just very slowly and very incrementally. Is like I don't quite make the same type of progress that I used to. Like I'll probably write maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs a day and basically leave it at that. I mean, it used to be I could write entire chapters essentially in just one day, but yeah, the what if thing. Also,
Well,
I
let's
need
go
to
back
remember.
to the previous Mhm.
I was just gonna say the whole finding someone
You
else
need to
to
remember
bounce
what?
ideas off of. I think is a great idea. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, Aaron's idea of finding somebody to bounce ideas off of, because if you look even going back, to the 1600s, the process of using a muse was considered standard in Europe, in Greece, in Italy, even in India. So I was going to say perhaps you could think back to your main character, and I'll use the example I used earlier since everybody already heard it. Is if your main character saw a bunch of birds circling over, what if um what if your character saw that? What would he think? What would he say? What would he do? Would he think it was a sign? Would he be scared? Would he um dismiss it? Would he start running? Would he build a fire? Would he start looking? Let's go back to that what if question. What if your main character saw the scary black birds circling overhead?
Um, Do you want me to like answer that
because that's
question?
something that can happen here in any time in any geography. So that's why I'm using that example.
Okay. Well, considering it's a Norse setting, Odin, who's like the leader of the Norse gods, his main sort of symbol is the raven. So could be very possible that like a bunch of blackbirds sort of converging in one place could be a sign from Odin.
But the what if is making you think, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. Absolutely.
Okay. What if there were a great tide, a great storm, a great wave, a great monsoon, and suddenly there was a flood? What if that happened? What would then happen to your main character and his family? Let's try that what if and see if that helps you. So, talk it through. What if there was some kind of tidal wave, monsoon, flooding, something like that?
He would he would protect his family first before anyone else. And then after he was certain his family was safe, then he would try to help as many other people as possible. He would try to he would try to sort of break down the walls of his house and try to make wooden boards and rafts and basically try to make as many things for people to sort of hold on to and float on top of as possible because he's very competent, he's very resourceful, and he's kind of used to sort of disastrous events happening because he used to be he used to be a soldier. He's fought in all kinds of wars and military campaigns. So he's not one to sort of panic and become overwhelmed by stressful situations and adversity very easily. I think
What
that's how he would
if
handle
he
that.
realized that his family didn't actually, that his family were just a dream, just something he wanted and hoped for? What if?
Um, I think that would probably emotionally break him because the entire the entire thing that basically begins the plot of the story is something horrible happens to his family that essentially renders him that essentially traumatizes him. So if he finds out his family never even existed in the first place,
Okay, I just threw that out because you said it was right. I just threw that out because you said it was fantasy. Likewise, what if there was some new, mysterious, mythological creature? What if? How would that change your character?
so it would be like a creature that he happens upon, just randomly.
No, it's a creature that when he goes to sleep and opens his eyes is staring there, staring down at him. He, even though he's probably a big, strong guy, is a helpless, sleepy, half awake, half asleep. And he barely opens his eyes. He doesn't know, is it real? Is it a dream? And then maybe it squawks, or maybe it roars, or maybe it trembles. I mean, it can go any way you want to because this is a what if question. And your main character realizes, oh, wait, it's not a dream. It's real. This creature is here and staring down at me. What if? What would your main character do?
I think the second his eyes drifted open and he saw the thing staring right down at him, he would instantly fully wake up and have his eyes locked with it, and then his entire body would tense up, like being ready to just completely spring into action, looking for any signs of any sudden movements from the creature. And if it did make any sudden movements, he would
Now, Karen
probably
McCarty
be ready
has
to.
some
Sorry. Sorry, what were you going to say?
great ideas. I wanted to share with you what the chat is saying. In the chat, Karen McCarty is writing, I think maybe it's just getting excited about writing your book again. Remind yourself how much you want to see it done. And Danielle Barnes is saying, sounds like a very cool and interesting story, Ian. Um, Karen is then saying, using Belle or a friend, uh, you can message me even. She says, get excited about finishing your book again, which is great advice and a nice offer from her. Al is talking about some suggestions. He says, for me, I go through phases of creativity and stagnation. And it sounds like you do
Hmm.
too, Ian. I have to wait for something in my life to spark inspiration. Can you tell us what that spark is? Because that's why we're actually talking about these what if questions. I'm not saying any of my what if questions are right for Ian's book, but sometimes wrong question um, can spark something else. It's kind of like reading a restaurant menu and you're saying fish, chicken, it's all the same things. And then a chef will say, oh, wait, but what if I did this, but with duck? Or what if I did this chicken recipe, but instead of using the same Swiss cheese, what if I used Gouda? You know, sometimes you can hear an idea which isn't quite right for you. And fashion designers are the same way, which, oh, I wouldn't do that. You know, that's too plunging. But I could bring up the neckline and I could put a flirty sleeve on that. And then they'll get some idea that will work for them.
So I would be I'd be happy to share the current draft of my story in your Discord, um, for everyone to read. Just the thing about it is that it's it's pretty lengthy and it's definitely not family friendly. It's very violent, very intense.
To your draft. Right. We're just talking here the heart to heart tonight, which we thought it was going to be about your life direction, and it's turned into the topic that we can all relate to about writer's block. I do want to stop to welcome Big Up Shady and MKT Treasures, Mom Knows Treasures, MKT. Tonight's guest is Ian Waller, who is a college graduate in the area of film, and he currently has a successful YouTube channel with over 3,000 subscribers. And he is more than halfway through writing his first novel, which is a fantasy novel. So we're trying to help him with his writer's block. But we're not asking you to give your draft away for free. We're just trying to help you with some of your character development with your writer's block. Um, and we just want to let you know that we are absolutely here for you.
I appreciate that.
And there's great encouragement in the chat. And if we can inspire you or motivate you, we're willing to do that. If you want to talk it through some more, we can. But we would never ask you to give your documents out because we want you to publish them. We want to go and buy your book and read it together. And I realize that for some audiences, it might not be appropriate, but on the other hand, there may be some people who enjoy the genre in which you write, and we appreciate you not telling us about the parts that aren't family friendly.
Very much so. I I think that this specific topic, I've I think I've absorbed a lot of very useful information and advice, and I thank you for that. But I'm willing to move on to a different topic if you are.
Certainly. Is there another topic you wanted to talk about? I'm just glad that we found this idea of the what if that might be able to help you. If there's another
Yeah.
topic you want to talk about, we can, but I don't want you to feel like you have to come up with another topic. But I am all ears if you do.
Mm, yeah. It's just I'm so my
Oh, here's
plans
a
for
great suggestion. Um, this one question from MKT, because I think this is going to be a question you're going to want to answer.
okay.
MKT says, "What about watching movies, Ian?" Because I know if anybody likes to talk about movies and the influence of movies and how movies inspire and motivate and encourage, it's going to be you. So, what do you think about MKT? And she is an actual mom, by the way. When she says, "What about watching movies?"
I try
MKT, you don't
to.
realize this, but his YouTube channel is literally about movies, which is why it is the perfect question for him. He professionally critiques movies. So, this is the greatest question. And you had no idea, MKT, that you were asking the question that he's going to love answering about how movies inspire and motivate him and might can help him through his writer's block. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I have. I love movies and the way they tell stories. Personally, I remember being a really small kid, and when my parents showed me movies, I had no idea that movies were just people with cameras filming other people saying like memorized lines, and that they were like edited together from like little film strips that came out of the cameras. I thought movies were real. Rather, I thought that they were sort of
Oh,
like I thought they were like documented footage from like alternate realities or something when I was like super small before I learned about how they were actually made. So
right.
I sort of tried to I like to sort of retain that same sort of childlike sense of wonder with them. I think that's a very powerful type of mindset to try to preserve, because I think
Do
that's
you
what
do that in
movies
your
should
writing as
do.
well? And do you
Oh yes,
preserve that
absolutely.
childlike sense of wonder in your writing? Excellent.
Yes, absolutely. Um, that among many other emotions, because I think movies are also amazing vehicles for making us embrace certain emotions that we might not otherwise embrace. They make us might make us weep, or they might inspire anger or sadness or all kinds of other things. Like they make us explore different emotions and different areas of our minds that we wouldn't really typically exercise in our day-to-day lives. I think that's one of the things that makes them such powerful pieces of art and expression. And they can do that in their own very special and unique ways by, with different cinematography and editing and score techniques and even acting techniques that certain actors utilize. Like,
So, have you been watching movies that might inspire your writing? And if
yes,
so, what movies do you think would inspire your writing since that's MKT's suggestion?
Well, I'll tell you the very first movie I ever saw in my whole life. I can actually remember it. I remember it very well. It is a
Wow.
film. Yeah, it's a film called The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. It's an old 1950s adventure film, and it has a bunch of monsters in it, and they're monsters that are brought to life through a special effects technique called stop motion animation, which, for those of you who might not know, stop motion animation is basically where you take this highly articulated sort of physical model of a character or a creature, and you move its various body parts a tiny bit. Then you take a picture of it, then you move it again, then you take another picture, and you repeat that entire process for hours at a time until you flip through all those still frames that you took. And the process of flipping through all those frames makes it look as if the character that you've been moving is actually moving on its own. That's how those creatures in that Sinbad movie were brought to
Wow.
life. And I distinctly remember a scene from that movie that gave me nightmares as a young kid. And it's a scene where the main character, Sinbad, he rescues the princess and he's stuck in this big, large cave. And on one side of the cave, he's being chased by a cyclops. And on the other side, he runs into a dragon that's chained to the cave wall. And the dragon breaks free of its chain and it starts chasing Sinbad and the princess from the other side. So they're just caught in the middle in this big cave. They're being chased by a dragon on one side and a cyclops on the other. And I remember having that dream as a kid where I was inside that cave and the cyclops was coming at me from one side, the dragon on the other. So that elicits a lot of powerful emotions, and those emotions sort of inform my writing because I try to transfer those emotions onto the page, like those emotions of terror and wonder, and also emotions of sadness for certain periods of my life where I'm experiencing some big some big episodes of depression. So that also informs how I sort of manage the tone of my story as well. Does that does that answer the question? I
Let me
feel like
get the
I may have
comments
rambled.
that, viewers. Yes, yes, yes. Let me share with you what the audience wants to say to you and share with you. Danielle Barnes is saying, "I love watching, and I'm very interested in behind the scenes." Boy, she would love your channel. "And how movies are made. It's fascinating to me. I've been an extra in 2 movies." Oh, by the way, she also lives in Louisiana. Y'all might wanna be friends. I
Oh,
have been an extra in 2 movies when I was in high school. She's up in a different part of the state, though. But still,
oh,
and
really?
she's happily married with a child. But still, y'all should be friends on Discord, though, because she might know of other movies. Because if you're willing to drive to New Orleans, you might be willing to drive to, like, Shreveport-ish area.
Absolutely.
So and then
Yeah.
she had a very interesting experience when she worked as an extra on these 2 movies. I wish I knew what movies. Sometime you're gonna have to come on and tell us about this experience and tell us about the 2 movies. Wouldn't you like to hear about that?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
In fact, you might even wanna click the link tonight, Danielle. The next person is Al Bundy, who is saying that Joseph Campbell has 2 great books on the hero archetype. I'm not familiar with
Mhm.
Joseph Campbell or those books, but it's a good recommendation. MKT is saying, yes, and even hearing the dialogue. Dialogue is so important to characterization, how they talk, and hearing it in your mind's eye, whether you're an actor or a writer. Danielle Barnes is saying that's how they did Nightmare Before Christmas when you were talking about how this Sinbad movie was made.
Mhm.
Franco, who wants to let us know that he's been listening and working. Otherwise, we would have thought he just tuned in. Thank you so much, Franco, that he loves this show. But he wants to know if you have a link. Now, I know you didn't come on here for publicity, and Ian can be reached on Discord. I don't know if Franco is a member of Discord. We'll let Danielle Barnes drop the link for Discord. But since people seem to be interested now that we're talking about movies and they realize that you have a film degree, that you are a fantastic um, person to critique and to observe and to notice all the nuances of film. Would you perhaps want to share your link? Or since there seems to have been an interest and everybody wants to help you out, but also to see your take on some of these classic movies, because the classic movies are your genre of interest, isn't that correct?
They are. Um, when you say link, are you asking for a link to my YouTube channel? Is that what you mean by
Franco,
link?
what link did you want? I I think he runs YouTube, but we'll see what he says. Big up Shady. If you want to be a guest on a future show, just let Karen know. She can sign you up for next week or 2 weeks or a month. If you'd like to be a guest on a future show, we can totally set that up. We can decide what it's about. We can give you our list of rules and protocol and all. Um, Tonight is not a night where we're just having a random revolving guest. We have a special guest who we signed up ahead of time who wanted to have this heart to heart with Belle. But in the future, we'd be glad to have you as a guest.
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
So I'm so sorry if you didn't understand how this worked, Big Up She, but we'd be glad to have you in the future. And also I should tell you we don't have any smoking on camera, any drinking on camera, or any type of adult activities on camera. But you are more than welcome to type in the chat. So sorry if there was a misunderstanding there, Mr. Big Up Shady. Okay, Franco is just saying yes. I'm not sure what the yes was to.
I
Um,
think it was probably yes, he wanted the link to my YouTube channel. Um,
would that
Franco, are
be okay?
you
If so, I will send Miss Danielle Barnes to get your link.
okay? Sounds good.
Ian wasn't here for publicity, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he's ready to do that. If you're not, it's okay, Ian. I don't want to twist your arm, but if you can see that there's interest and people would like to see your channel and to support you after this heart to heart, then you can. Apparently, Danielle has found it, so I'm hoping that was a yes. Although, if you say no, she will delete it.
Uh, yeah, she can share my channel to anybody who's interested if you're okay
Thank
with
you.
that.
I am
What?
absolutely okay. Anybody who's a guest can have their channel shared.
All right. I hope anybody who's interested in my channel and who got that link, I hope they enjoy what they find. I am actually in the middle of making another video project. Um, it's not going to be anywhere near as long and ambitious as the
It's all about
last
it.
project
Maybe
I
we can
made.
help to encourage and inspire.
It's just going to be a very short review of an old, very silly martial arts movie called Master of the Flying Guillotine. It's very obscure, very funny and hilarious and cheesy, and I'm all about films of that nature. I'm very much an enjoyer of low
Okay.
budget, sort of lowbrow, silly, goofy B movie type of films, in addition to the classics as well.
Al
So,
Bundy just subscribed.
oh, thank you Thank you very much, Al Bundy. Very much appreciate that.
Well, Al Bundy found me through a growth channel, and even though I am not a growth channel, apparently, I'm helping you perhaps with a few extra subscribers. So sometimes you never know the twists and turns that a heart to heart with Belle is going to take.
Absolutely.
And for those of you who are watching who may want a future heart to heart with Belle, you're more than welcome to comment once this video is uploaded and let me know. We can get you scheduled. Also, anybody who would like to be a future contestant on Battle with Belle, we are signing up contestants as well. And if you'd just like to talk about this privately, maybe you'd like to pitch some ideas to Ian, maybe you would like to a discussion about it. Discord is the place. We have private messaging, we have group messaging, and it is fan friendly and G rated.
Hmm. Yeah. So,
Okay, let's see who else is commenting. We want to welcome ICU nurse Michelle. NKT has a great question. You are going to love this question. It may take 2 hours to answer this question, but I can't wait to hear your answers. Now that she knows you are a professional movie critic with your own well established YouTube channel of more than 3,000 followers, NKT asks, what are some of your favorite movies, Ian? I know it's going to be so hard to narrow it down to answer this question. When I first became acquainted, that was one of the things I said, or what are your favorite movies? Have you made a top 10 list, a top 5 list, a top 100 list? And we had started talking about it. So I can't wait to see what his answer is. I have no idea what he's going to say.
so
Oh, and
I
Al
have.
Bundy. Oh, look, one quick question before you answer that. Al Bundy says, I love the flying guillotine as a child. Cheesy kung fu, the best. So somebody has
Wow.
actually heard of that movie. I'm embarrassed to say I have not heard of it, but that's not my chosen genre. But I just wanted you to know what a kindred soul he was. Now, let's get back to
That's
MKT's question of your favorite movies.
that's great. Wow. I can't believe someone else has actually heard of that film. That's awesome. But yeah, getting back to the question, I actually do have a list of favorites on a website called Letterboxd. Um, it's gotten up to about 300, like over 300. I'm not going to list all of them here, but I think I can probably list off at least the top 10. Yeah, I think the top 10 are
Excellent. And
probably.
Franco says he just subscribed to you as well. So we've gotten you 2 subscribers just during this heart to heart about your writer's block. So, see, God is helping you in multiple ways by being here. Not just with your writer's block, but with finding kindred spirits, with finding new viewers, and more people to support your creative outlets. Well, let's hear your top favorite movies. Are you still there? Can you hear me? Am I buffering? Give me a thumbs up if y'all can hear me. He doesn't look like he's muted. And Danielle subscribed too, so you've got 3 more subs. Okay, so y'all can hear me, you just can't hear Ian? Oh, hi, Amanda Hurst. I didn't even realize you were here. Al says, "You've got this." I hate that we seem to have lost his sound when he was about to tell us his favorite movies of all time, because you know his 3,000 followers would love to hear the answer to this question. And here we are on my channel about to get the inside scoop. I still see his icon and I don't see the muted on. I'm not sure why we can't hear him. Danielle and Karen, why don't you send him an emergency message on Discord to let him know that he's muted? Because I don't know if he can hear me, but he is still logged into the stream. So he has not dropped, because otherwise we'd be seeing the revolving, and the screen would be blank and it would go automatically to a solo layout. Hello, Connie Wilton. Thank you for joining in. Always good to see you in the comments. We've missed you. Tonight, our guest is Ian Waller, who we thought was going to talk about his career trajectory and some frustration he was having about not currently working in the
Oh wait, oh
profession.
wait, oh wait, wait. Did
Started
my mic
college.
go off?
Yes, I've been stalling and talking to people and welcoming people while waiting
I am
to get
oh
you back.
yeah,
So let me tell you where we left off with you.
I am so
You
sorry.
That's okay. We are glad to have you back. See, I did not lose him. Okay. So, where we are is you are about to tell us your top favorite films, and you might have to tell us why in case we haven't heard of a few of them, because
Okay.
sometimes he likes movies that are old, that might have been before our time, or movies of specific genres which we might not be acquainted with. So don't expect these to all be blockbusters that you've heard of, because he is a true cinema appreciator.
Yeah. I'm really sorry about my mic going out. I hope I wasn't out for too long.
That's okay, sweetie. It was a short enough time I could stall. That's one good thing about being on a show where a lady can have a 4, 5, 7 hour auction is I can talk.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so tell us about your favorite movies, sweetie.
All right. So, my top 10 right off the top of my head.
Yes, sir.
Um my number 1 is 2001: A Space Odyssey. Um that's my favorite movie of all time. There's like no other movie like it.
And that's an Oscar-winning movie, isn't it?
It is. It
Is it
very
from the
much is.
1970s? Is that correct?
Late 1960s,
Late
close.
1960s. Okay. Well, I'm guessing here. I knew it was way before my time. Okay. What else you got?
Number 2, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, which we just talked about.
Talked about. Mhm.
Yep, movie left a huge impact on me. My number 3 would be Conan the Barbarian, the original '80s one with Schwarzenegger. Love that movie.
Now, I have to admit, I have not seen that actual movie, but when I first became acquainted, because I shouldn't say met, he could pass me on the street and never know it was me. But when I first became acquainted with Ian, he said, "Hey, do you want to watch some of my videos?" And I said, "Sure. Why don't you send me some that you think I might like, or you think are the best ones?" And one of the two he sent me was Conan the Barbarian. And without even having seen the film, I just watched his criticism and critique of it to see the way he notices everything, that he notices the way the camera pushes in at this moment, when he notices the swell of the background music, the way an actor says a particular word, the glint on the blade of a sword in a particular scene. This man has a golden eye. I would never want him to see me with or without makeup, because if he has that close of a vision for movies, imagine in real life. But I was so impressed by his attention to detail. And if you want to see what you haven't seen in your favorite film, or what you might have missed, this man is a genius at that.
Thank
Okay,
you.
what else do you have for us? What's your
Uh, Apart from Conan the Barbarian, my next pick would be The Adventures of Robin Hood from 1939 with Errol Flynn as Robin Hood. Just probably like one of the all-time great, like hopeful, feel-good type movies. Fun, wonderful escapism. Errol Flynn is basically Errol Flynn basically set the standard of like what we all think of when we think of Robin Hood. So it's absolutely brilliant. Also, Basil Rathbone set the standard for what we all
and
think of
you
when we
know
think of the Sheriff of Nottingham. Sorry, go ahead.
And Robin Hood is a great example of answering a what if question, because Robin Hood answers the what if question: what if somebody robbed from the rich and gave to the poor?
Yep, yep,
Okay,
absolutely.
what's next?
Next would be a Russian film from one of the all-time like most important filmmakers who ever lived, a guy named Sergei Eisenstein. And the film of his that I picked as my number 5 is a film called Alexander Nevsky, which, if you've never heard of it, it's a historical epic film about a Russian prince in the 1200s who is leading an army against an invading evil force of German knights called the Teutonic Order. And it's an incredible film to watch. It has it's masterfully directed, it has fantastic acting, and it has production design and location shooting and costume and prop design that is like decades ahead of the time it was made. It was made in the late 30s, but it like the quality of everything, it looks like it could have been made in like at least the late 50s or early 60s. It's that well put together. And also it has one of the most incredible and even iconic film scores of all time that's influenced an
Wow,
untold
yes,
amount of modern day film
indeed.
composers.
Now, Amanda Hurst has an important question.
Okay.
Great. Now, Amanda Hurst's question came in when you were talking about Conan. She says, do you know all of the quote Easter eggs unquote in the movie? So tell everybody what an Easter egg is for those who might not be acquainted with that term, and then answer whether you do or do not know those about Conan.
So an Easter egg is typically sort of a an obscure reference or an obscure like little nod to something else that a filmmaker puts into a film. So an example of an Easter egg in a
Exactly.
film would be yeah, it would be so one example of an Easter egg in a film would be sort of let's take a Disney film for example. Let's say you would have let's say you would have a character from uh, there's a scene from that one Disney Hercules movie where Hercules is like lying on top of like a lion pelt on the floor, and that lion pelt is actually Scar from the Lion King. That's an example of an Easter egg. Like it's a cute little sort of
Ooh,
visual or auditory like
great
callback to something
example.
else. Yeah, that that's typically what an Easter egg
Danielle
in a
Barnes
film
is
is.
sharing that Pixar Mhm. Danielle Barnes is sharing that Pixar puts a lot of Easter eggs in their films. Do
Yes,
you
they
agree
do.
with that?
Yes, absolutely. They
Mhm.
put a lot of Easter
Okay.
eggs.
Well, keep going with your list. Great question, Amanda. Great backup, Danielle. We have such a film audience here tonight, and I had no idea. Well, let's keep going with your top 10 list.
Yeah, so after Alexander Nevsky, my next pick would be Treasure of the Sierra Madre. If you've never heard of it, it's a late 40s black and white sort of Western adventure film. It's got Humphrey Bogart as the lead character. He plays this guy who learns about this he learns about this rich deposit of gold somewhere in Mexico, and he and this other guy team up with this crazy old guy to go and mine this gold, and they're set under attack by these bandits who have been chasing them all throughout Mexico. And it's a great story sort of
Oh,
about
no.
yeah, it's a great story about like greed and sort of human nature and like paranoia and all kinds of other stuff. It's a fantastic movie that I
Is it a
recommend everybody see. Sorry, what were you gonna ask?
comedy or drama? Comedy or
It
drama?
it's a drama. Like it's definitely a drama because it definitely has some funny moments in there because like the dialogue and like the interactions between Bogart and the other two guys, one of whom Walter Houston, that's the guy who plays the old guy, and there's another guy in there who plays Bogart's friend. They all have some very funny interactions with each other, but it's definitely a drama. Can't
Okay.
recommend it enough.
So
Definitely check that out.
is sharing that Bogart was his grandmother's favorite. I'm guessing he means Humphrey Bogart. Oh, and hi, Jennifer
Yes.
Hayes.
Hmm.
Okay, so what's next on your top 10 movie list?
So next would be Double Indemnity, uh, which is like one of the most iconic and influential film noir movies of all time.
Is that Alfred Hitchcock?
It's not Alfred
Is
Hitchcock.
that Alfred Hitchcock?
It's not.
No.
It's
Okay.
not Alfred Hitchcock. It's directed by a guy named Bill
It's all right.
Wilder. No, it's okay. The director of that is Billy Wilder, who was a German immigrant. He was one of actually several filmmakers to move to Hollywood in the early 40s from Germany to escape Nazi persecution, because that was definitely a thing that happened. There was this whole slew of like former German silent film directors and actors and producers and all kinds of other filmmakers who emigrated from Germany to America, to Hollywood, and their styles absolutely bled over into American films, and they ended up creating basically entire genres. They made their own horror movies, and they made the genre that we now know today as film noir, which is basically sort of dark, moody crime and detective films, which is what Double Indemnity is.
And for
It's a
anybody
Yeah.
and
Go
for
ahead.
anybody who hasn't seen the movie, tell everybody what double indemnity means in legal terms.
I'm. You know what? I completely forgot. I used to know what it meant, but I forgot what actually it was. Um, I
Murder
know what the movie's about.
of the same person twice. Is that you can't be convicted of murdering the same person twice?
Oh, okay, okay,
Because if you've been convicted of murdering them, then they're already dead, and you can't be convicted twice, ergo the double indemnity.
okay. Yeah,
But
that
I may
definitely
be
plays into the
mistaken.
movie's plot. Yeah, it plays into the movie's plot, so that
Okay.
definitely makes sense. If
Well,
I
what's
don't,
next on your
what's next on my list would be John Carpenter's The Thing. To me, it's
Oh,
everybody remembers that film
Danielle
for. I'm sorry.
Danielle Barnes has a great suggestion. It's on the screen now. She says, "I think that Ian would be a great contestant on Battle with the Bell." Do you
Hmm.
think that you might be up for a friendly battle of wits with the game Last Word on a Thursday night? I know you and your roommate usually are in some kind of a competition, but do you think maybe you might could carve out just a little bit of time before you go or get home a little bit early so that sometime you might could be a contestant on Battle with Belle
I might
for our
be
girl
able
Danielle?
to. Yeah, I might be able to. I might be able to participate that this Thursday because I think we might be changing our time of when we actually play tabletop games. So I think that's definitely a
Okay.
possibility.
Now, MKT it likes the film noir that you mentioned, and she's saying she thinks Chinatown is a great film noir movie.
Yep, definitely is. Chinatown with Jack Nicholson and Faye Dunaway and John Huston. That is a very good movie. Even if the guy who directed that movie is,
Well, let's get back to your
yeah, let's just say
novel.
not so great. Yeah, sure. So yeah, what was I? Oh, John Carpenter's The Thing. I just talked about that film. That's a that's a very beloved '80s horror movie because it's amazing suspense, amazing visual effects. I love that movie because it is so immersive and it sells its like frozen, icy cold setting so well that it actually makes you start to feel like freezing cold yourself. Like I've seen very few movies that sell such a tactile like feeling of temperature as well as The Thing does. So that's why that movie is on my top 10 list for sure.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did I interrupt you? Were you going to say
What else?
something? Oh, uh
No,
what
I was saying, what else? Because we're all on the
okay.
edge of our seat to see what else is on your top 10 list.
My next pick would be The Great Silence, which probably some people may not have heard of. It's an Italian Western film from the late 60s. It is different from most other Westerns in that it is actually set during an icy winter. Like when you typically think of Westerns, you think of, very dry, brutally hot desert settings. The Great Silence is the complete opposite. It's set in the snow and ice and like people are very like hypothermic, they're dressing very heavily, and it goes a long way into making the movie setting completely unforgettable. It's very bleak, very grim, very depressing. So definitely if you're interested in watching it, definitely go into it expecting that, but it's amazing as a very as a beautifully executed dark tone, great acting, and has one of my favorite film scores of all time. Probably my favorite by Ennio Morricone.
That is high praise from you. You are quite the critic of the music that comes in movies. And Jennifer Hayes is saying that she liked it. Then MKT is saying, I need to watch The Thing. I've never seen it. Then she follows up with, I've seen The Blob, but not The Thing. And then Jennifer Hayes is also saying it was good. So you're getting a lot of interest from the ladies in the chat.
I'm glad to hear it. Um, And my pick after that would be. Am I up to number 10 now?
I haven't been counting. Have any of our moderators been counting if he's on number 8, number 9, or number 10? Go ahead and tell us while we wait to see what number you're on.
I think my number 10 would be Suspiria, if that is number 10. Now, for those of you who never heard of it, I'm referring to the original 1970s version of Suspiria, not the remake from a few years ago. I do not like the remake. The original movie is probably like possibly the scariest film I've seen in my whole life. Um, to this day, it just scares me completely. It's terrifying, like the way that Dario Argento like just films like this dance school, the way he uses colors and lighting, and especially music and sound design, like it all just combines to make a film that just it feels like it was just engineered in a lab to make me as uncomfortable and paranoid and tense as possible while I'm sitting and watching it, especially if I'm sitting and watching it at night. So,
Ooh.
yeah. And I've seen a lot of horror movies, and I'm not someone who gets scared easily. So it says a lot for a movie to have that type of effect on me. So that is why that would be
Okay.
my number
Connie
10.
Wilton is saying that was only number 9. Well, she's saying that was only 9. So that gives you one more movie to tell us about.
Okay. So that was number 9. So,
And then we'll
okay.
see if anybody else has any other follow-up questions for Ian regarding his writer's block, which is what he initially came here for the heart to heart about, or perhaps his love of movies, which is the reason for his successful YouTube channel. So, what is number 10?
My number 10 pick would be. I know what I'm going to go with. It is a film called Ron. And for those of you who never heard, Ron is a film directed by a filmmaker named Akira Kurosawa. He's an iconic, highly revered Japanese filmmaker. And Ron is a Japanese historical period piece. It's actually based on a very well-known Shakespeare play called King Lear, whom some of you in the chat may have heard of. But it follows the plot of.
Yes, I know King Lear.
Yeah, Ron is a very good adaptation of King Lear. It's about this samurai lord whose sons are sort of revolting against him, and he mistreats one of his sons who wants only what's best for him, and he sort of ostracizes him, and he favors other sons of his who are very kind of morally bankrupt, and it ends up leading to his entire lineage basically falling apart and disaster
Oh no.
striking. Yeah, it's a very tragic, very sad, but also insanely beautiful film. Like it is so beautifully shot. The way Kurosawa uses colors is so emotionally riveting, and especially the way he films his battle scenes, and especially the way he uses the telephoto lens. Kurosawa is known for how he uses his telephoto lens to just paint these gigantic, epic historical portraits. And I think the scene from that film that always sticks with
We
me
have
is sorry.
What is the scene that sticks with you?
So there's a scene from the film where the main character, the old samurai lord, he's just sitting in like his castle, and it's under siege from an enemy army, and they are sending these flying arrows through the walls of his castle, and he's just sitting there with a shocked, absolutely emotionally broken look on his face while these arrows are just flying through the walls, whizzing past his head, and they are making the castle just completely catch on fire. There's so many amazing shots with just the flaming arrows all around him, which is very metaphorical for how he basically created this fate for himself. And it's beautiful, incredible filmmaking. So can't recommend that film enough if you're someone who enjoys foreign films and especially Japanese films. It is called Ran, spelled Ran, by Akira Kurosawa.
We have another
And
question from the chat. MKT wants to know, what do you think of Clockwork Orange, Ian?
I love it. Very
Are you
good.
familiar with Clockwork Orange?
Yes, I'm very familiar. The Stanley Kubrick film, very incredibly good film. Although obviously I love Stanley Kubrick because 2001 is my favorite film. Although I would recommend people check out the films Kubrick made before 2001 because I feel like Kubrick's films from like 2001 onward, you know, films like Clockwork Orange and The Shining and Full Metal Jacket, you know, those are films that almost everybody knows about, but not a lot of people know about, like sort of his old black and white films, stuff like Doctor Strangelove and The Killing and Spartacus and stuff like that. I think people should check out like his work from basically all eras. But yeah, Clockwork Orange is brilliant. Absolutely love that film. It's very disturbing as well.
Hello and welcome to Jean. Thank you so much, Jean, for tuning in tonight. If y'all haven't already given a thumbs up for Ian being our guest tonight, please click the thumb up so that he can know that you are rooting for him. For those of you who have tuned in late, tonight's Heart to Heart was with our guest, Ian Waller, who is behind the YouTube channel FW Waller, and he's got over 3,000 viewers. He's been having some writers block. In addition to his YouTube channel critiquing classic films, he's also been writing his own masterpiece novel, which is a fantasy novel, and he's had a little bit of writer's block. So he came here to Heart with Belle tonight for a little bit of inspiration, encouragement, so that we could help to be his muse. He is also on our Discord channel. Danielle Barnes is dropping the Discord link, and you can find him there under the name Sherp. And he's also telling us about the next YouTube video he is working on. The last one was a critical look at the classic movie Predator. And the next one will be, tell us again the title.
It's just going to be a short review of a fun, very silly, cheesy old kung fu movie called Master of the Flying Guillotine. It's going,
I knew
get,
guillotine was in there somewhere, but it didn't want
yeah.
to take a guess at the title. So he is willing to critique movies of all genres, dramas to horror movies to even a kung fu movie. And when it comes to there any other questions tonight about his channel or any other suggestions for his writer's block?
Mm,
We have so
yeah,
enjoyed having Ian on our show tonight.
yeah. So I think should probably be
I
wrapping
want to
this up
remind,
because
and we will also be,
I think you're
yes,
lagging a bit, Bill.
you were saying, Ian?
I was gonna say that I'm attending this stream on my phone, and my phone is running low on battery, so we may have to wrap this up. Is that okay?
I'm sorry, I think either you were cutting out or I was buffering, so I didn't quite hear you. Could you repeat once again for me, pretty please?
Yeah, my phone is running low on batteries, and that's what I'm using to attend the stream. So I was just wondering if we could wrap this up, if that's okay with you.
Okay. Well, we will say good night to you. We will thank you for our show and waiting for our next video, and we'll make sure to message
Yeah,
you
yep,
on Discord. Maybe if you have a and you if And so I want to thank everybody in the chat. We've had a great night, a really great heart to heart conversation, which just shows you never know where it's going to go. I hope to see everybody back Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time for the Battle with Belle game show. If you'd like to be a future guest on Heart to Heart, then you can let me know in the comments or send me a Discord message. If you'd like to be a contestant on Battle with Belle, you can also let me know in the comments or send me a Discord message. And we'll also be having auctions on Saturday night and Sunday night. So if you don't have any family plans or a hot date, then I hope to see you at the auction. Even if you're not in the market to buy anything, you can just talk, ask questions, have fun. And I'll see you then. So laissez bon temps rouler. Let the good times roll. Roll in your life, roll in your heart, roll in your soul, roll on and on and on. And I'll see you next Monday again for another episode of Heart to Heart